I don't know if I'm bursting anyone's bubble by saying this, but if I'm being frank, Five Nights at Freddy's was never that niche. It never really was. Okay, it started as a viral game. The videos of people like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye playing it got millions and millions of views, and that level of viewership has stayed pretty true through the series. And I was into FNAF since the first game dropped. I remember when it dropped because I went to a middle school where we used iPads, and the restrictions on the iPads weren't that strict. So people could download games. People were playing Five Nights at Freddy's like a few days after it blew up during school on these iPads. There is a mobile version. I've never really been under the perception that Five Nights at Freddy's was a niche thing. However, TikTok, this happened with the last movie, and we're on the second FNAF movie now. On TikTok, people will post videos about Five Nights at Freddy's. And people will be like, "Oh, you're not a real fan. You're a new gen. All these fake new fan. Why are we like this? Why are we like this?" Listen, just because you want something to be niche does not mean it is. And just because someone is enjoying the fandom in a way that you didn't or don't, does not make them any more or less fans than you. Let's talk about nicheness. Why do we care if something is niche, if it is or isn't? Why do we care who is consuming the media we are? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that. So my name is Robin. I go by The Eclectus on TikTok, on YouTube. I have a few other socials. I stream sometimes. I actually have a new setup underway. So hopefully I'll be streaming very soon. If you're interested in any of that, check my link tree. But now let's talk nicheness and FNAF. I love talking about FNAF. I love FNAF. I watched every game theory video when they came out. I watched all of the Living Tombstone videos, all the music. It's great. I still love it. I mean, not as much as when I was in middle school and the games were first coming out, but I get nostalgic for it. It's a nostalgic thing for a lot of people my age. I get that. And FNAF is one of those things that benefited from internet culture. When I was in middle school, when FNAF came out, when Five Nights at Freddy's came out, internet culture and internet humor were very different than they are now. In a way that if you participated in it in a way perceived to be cringe, like, let's face it, I was, you had a tendency to get bullied for that. Like, flashback in time. You're in middle school, you have really bad social skills, you're also kind of a dork, kind of a geek, kind of a nerd. Right? Some spite can come from that, and it is our responsibility to overcome that spite and acknowledge, listen, I was a kid around kids who were trying their best to fit in, and the way they found to do that was unfortunately to put me down. Hopefully, they better themselves, but me being spiteful will do no good. I've sort of come full circle on that, right? I do wish I wasn't bullied growing up, right? But I have to acknowledge it happened, and I'm sure the people who participated in that are doing great and have hopefully become better people. Because if you're still a middle school bully as an adult, that sucks for you. Okay. But some people, I feel, have not overcome that spite from being bullied about things like FNAF. And the funny thing is, a lot of the people who were bullying were actually kind of into that stuff in middle school. They were kind of just embarrassed because, if you're bullying someone over being in a fandom, right, the worst thing you can do is acknowledge you're in that fandom. Like stones, glass houses, there's something there, right? So we're now in the year 2025. FNAF had a very successful first movie, and the second one's coming out. People are posting about it, People are posting memes about it. They're posting nostalgia. Those videos where it's like, oh, this is the person who's really watching the first FNAF movie, and it's from someone, is a picture from the year that the first game came out, right? I love all of it. I think it's really cute. I think it's really fun. I understand all the memes, But if you go to the comments for a lot of those videos, specifically, you'll see it under like videos of women deemed attractive by these people commenting. It'll be like, you weren't a real fan, were you? I was bullied for this. Were you bullied for this? First of all, a glow up exists. Like that person could have been deemed unattractive by their peers when FNAF first came out and had a glow up. That's a thing that happens. But just because you perceive someone as unbullyable doesn't mean they weren't. But further, let's say they weren't bullied for it. How does that affect how you consume it? It's not a prereq to have you had to have been bullied to enjoy FNAF. But, and also people are like, this used to be niche. No, it didn't. It was never niche. It was never niche to be into FNAF. I mean, like, there are hundreds and hundreds of millions of views on YouTube for FNAF videos. Like the Markiplier videos. Those things are like some of the most viewed videos I've ever seen. It wasn't niche. It was a viral game. It became a thing because it became viral. If it wouldn't have got a movie, 2 movies, it was actually that niche, guys. But why do we care if something's niche? I'm into a lot of fandoms that actually are like the FNAF fandom, where if you're deemed as someone who looks like they wouldn't be into this niche topic, then you kind of get bullied and you're like, oh, you're not a real fan. Like, justify your fandom. It's like the kind of thing when you wear like a band shirt, like a t-shirt, like a graphic tee with a band on them, and someone's like, name 5 songs. First of all, it primarily affects women and minorities, When straight white men see straight white men into the things they're into, they don't question it, but they see someone they deem attractive or someone they deem different, suddenly name 5 songs. Like, there is a level of unacknowledged prejudice there. Okay, whether or not you want to acknowledge that or not, that is a factor that people gatekeep their fandoms from minority populations or historically oppressed populations at a higher rate. That's if you want to argue with that, good for you, that you're wrong. But furthermore, like, why do we care? I'm part of several fandoms that have that behavior, like Undertale and Deltarune, or I don't know. I'm kind of blanking on the fandoms I was into. Maybe I wasn't into anything. I don't know. Like Magic the Gathering was also the same case too. Especially where, with this new media coming in, there are new FNAF fans coming in. There are new Magic the Gathering players coming in. Why would you gatekeep that? Because when I was a kid, being bullied for being into nerdy stuff, I was praying that these things would become popular so I could talk to people about them. Which actually reminds me of a story like that. When I was in middle school, it was around the same time FNAF came out, there was an app that blew up called like Quiz Up, I'm pretty sure. And basically there's all these different like trivia quizzes that you could compete online in. And one of them was Name That Pokemon, right? And people who like semi grew up with Pokemon but weren't as obsessed about it as I would, it was a big thing to play that in between classes. And I was ecstatic. Why? Because people talked to me for the first time about this kind of thing. People, like, I was so good at it. I was so good at it. I'd play it, and people would see I was good, and like, oh, like, how do you know all this stuff? And like, who's your favorite? And like, that got the conversation rolling with people that I had never had conversations with because I deemed them like they either A, they bullied me, or B, what was more commonly the case is I'm like, oh, they look popular and they're into popular things, they're into sports. They would never be into Pokemon. They never would be. And like that was the kind of thing where it's like I had this perception of who was into it and who wasn't. I was in middle school, But when that did become popular for a little bit, I was ecstatic, over the moon. So I don't understand how people can be like, oh, it's popular now. Well, I liked it first. You're awful, man. Something being niche doesn't make it better or worse. Let yourself be into popular things, or let popular people be into niche things. Like the kind of things when like celebrities say like they're into like anime. We're like, no, they're not. They're famous. Oh my God. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about like the importance of maintaining nicheness in real fan status? I think it's kind of all ridiculous. I just wanted to rant a little bit because this happened with the last FNAF movie and it's happening now. What do you think? I think I'm gonna leave it here, but yeah, I'm just currently getting a new stream setup in the works. You can kind of see a mic arm back there. So got some fun projects in the pipeline. I really, especially going into 2026, I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, you all take care. I'll see you on the flip side.